The new Superman movie comes out July 11th. And kind of funny, you know, Greg Miller is a massive Superman fan. They're doing Superman in review. They're going to watch the original 4 Superman movies, and then I think they watched the new one, Superman Returns. So at work today, because they did the first one yesterday, and so at work today, I was listening to them do the first Superman movie. It's like their review of the original Superman is longer than the movie itself. And they go into so much behind the scenes details, tell so many stories I'd never heard before. It was really interesting. I don't know if I'd recommend it because it's, again, a 3-hour video. But if you're interested in some of the behind the scenes stuff, again, maybe watch the Christopher Reeves documentary on HBO Max. But this is another thing you could watch. And thoroughly, I was really interested into this kind of funny thing. So at a certain point, once I got home, I was like, you know, I could keep listening to this, or fuck it, I can just watch Superman. It's on it. All of the movies are on HBO Max. Fuck it, I'll just watch the original Superman. So that's what I did. I sat down, I watched the original. I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever fully seen this movie before. I've definitely seen bits and pieces of it, but I don't think I've ever sat down to fully watch the original 1978 Christopher Reeves, Richard Donner Superman. And watching it again? Yeah, no, I had a good time. Is it campy? Is it cheesy? Yes. Yes, it is. But I think Christopher Reeves knocks it out of the park as Superman. When he goes out there as Superman, the tagline of the movie is, "You will believe a man can fly." And you know what? I believe. I think he nailed it. Margaret Kidder as Lois Lane did a fantastic job. Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, it's a weird one, because by any stretch of the imagination, I would not say he's Lex Luthor. Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is as much Lex Luthor as Jesse Eisenberg was Lex Luthor. Like, he really doesn't fit the interpretation of the character, or like what I expect the character to be. But he's going out there, he's playing it like the Adam West Batman. That's the comparison I see made. And I think that's the best explanation. Because he's got 2 henchmen, Otis in Thesmea. It's something like that. He's got a henchman and a henchwoman. The man's an idiot. The woman's, a little smarter, but she's clearly just a sex symbol. There are so many sex things in this movie that I don't remember at all. She shows up half naked. You see fully naked baby Clark Kent. When Lois in Superman as Superman. When Lois sits down to interview Superman, he comments on the color of her panties, which I was not expecting. There's some dick jokes, there's some boob jokes. For a kid's movie, yeah, I'm not going to say it's like super raunchy, but there's way more than I remember. And overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. I think Christopher Reeves does a good job. I feel like the story was interesting enough. It was really, having watched the Kind of Funny thing, it was really neat to hear them talk about, like, oh yeah, during this scene when they're first exiting the Daily Planet, you can see the camera in the reflection. Oh, here's how they did this thing. Oh, the first time Christopher Reeves flied was the first time they had ever done the test before. And he just nails it in a way most people wouldn't, right? In a way they didn't expect. Like, they were so surprised by his mannerisms, how he moved. It just works so well. In the score, oh my gosh. John Williams does the score. Fresh off of Star Wars. And it's so good. The Superman theme is maybe my favorite piece of John Williams' work. Like, I don't get me wrong, there's some great Star Wars stuff, there's some great Indiana Jones stuff. But that first time you see Superman fly and you hear the Superman theme, it is so good. Oh my gosh. Not that it's all perfect, man. It's cheesy, it's kind of dumb sometimes. The ending with the time travel is really fucking stupid. Yeah, the time travel is really dumb. That my opinion on that has not changed. It's awful. But I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't know if I was... It's one of those movies like, oh, it's from 78. Are you actually going to like this movie or not? You never actually know. But I really enjoyed it. You know, you don't have to watch it by any means to see the new one. There's no connection whatsoever. But I'm glad I did. And especially listening to the Kind of Funny stuff, I do, after hearing them talk about it, I do want to watch the Christopher Reeves documentary, because hearing all these behind the scenes stories also is really interesting. So if we come back next week and Superman 2 is on here and the Christopher Reeves thing is on, do not be surprised. I will tell you right now though, I'm not watching Superman 3. And because I've never seen it. I've admittedly never seen Superman 3. But I have no interest in watching it. And I have seen Superman 4. Never again. Never again. So I'm good. I'll probably listen to Kind of Funny talk about both of those. But I've never seen Superman 3 and I don't want to see Superman 4. I've also never seen Superman Returns. And I'm kind of split on whether or not to see that one. So I was not expecting to enjoy it, because again, it's 78. The fact that it's 78 and what they were able to pull off blows me away. But yeah, listening to all the behind the scenes stuff that Kind of Funny talked about, it just, I think it made my experience better. Knowing some of that stuff, knowing how they worked on it, how they got some of that stuff done. And I know they're citing other sources. But yeah, it was totally worth it. So I watched Superman. I enjoyed it. You know, is it campy? Is it cheesy? Is it dumb? Yes, yes, and yes. But I still had a good time. But Superman 2 is kind of the same thing. Where I'd never fully seen the movie, but I've definitely seen bits and pieces of it over the years. And I remember it being better. I remember Superman 2 being the better movie. So I sat down to watch this one. And I actually watched this one. The only thing as I knew about this one was the stuff Kind of Funny talked about last week. Where, you know, because I watched this one before I had watched the Kind of Funny thing. So when I sat down, and this was earlier in the day. I actually haven't finished the Kind of Funny thing. Because I actually started watching the Kind of Funny thing after I saw the movie. Whereas last time I did it the opposite way. I watched the Kind of Funny thing, then I watched the movie. So the thing is, I knew that, like, hey, originally Richard Donner made 70% of a movie. Then they brought in Richard Lester to make the last, like, 20 or 30%. But instead, because of, you know, union rules and whatnot, he reshot, like, 40 to 50% of it. Just so that way, you know, he could get his own credit after they kicked Richard Donner off the project. And that's, like, super fucked up. And now I didn't know about the Richard Donner cut. So, like, I got to, you know, they talked about that. I have not seen the Richard Donner cut. I think, because I have no plans on watching Superman 3 next week. I know Superman 3 is bad. I have no real interest in watching Superman 3. Or Superman 4. So I'm thinking, if we do continue to talk about Superman next week, I'll probably watch the Donner cut, and we'll talk about that. Because I am interested to see some of the differences, you know, see Donner's, you know, 70% vision, and, you know, what else they did. It all sounds really interesting, some of the things they talked about last week. So yeah, that might be a thing next week. But overall, yeah, I didn't enjoy Superman 2 as much. Not that it was a bad it's still, all the problems of the first one are still here. It's campy, it's cheesy, the ending is still really fucking stupid. I mean, admittedly, I think the mind erasing kiss isn't as bad as traveling back in time, but it's still pretty bad. But yeah, I think, here's the other thing. I watched this movie right when I got home from work today. You know, I worked a full day, I got home, and I was fucking tired. So I sat down, started watching it. And then around the time, after Zod broke out, Zod, Ursa, and Nan? They break out of the Phantom Zone, thanks to the nuke. And then they go to the moon. And while they were on the moon, I fell asleep. Because I was fucking tired. It's been a long day. So that's when I fell asleep. And then when I woke up when Lois threw herself into Niagara Falls. Because, you know, the classic Lois Lane thing is she throws herself off of a building to prove that Superman is Superman. And I guess she does that in the Donner cut. But no, in the Lester cut, she throws herself into Niagara Falls. And Clark doesn't really, I mean, he cuts off a branch for her, but he doesn't really save her. And it's kind of weird and dumb. I missed that entire part. And that was just, I was tired. And I don't think I'm going to go back and watch it. So I guess I didn't technically watch the whole thing. But it was okay. It was an okay movie. I definitely liked the first one more. Some of the cheesiness, some of the campiness, I liked more in the first movie. There are some things I do really like in this one. I think the three villains are really good and really interesting. I like Zod. Zod has a really good presence, and he's got some great moments. You know, when he goes to the White House, and he tells the president to kneel, the guy gets up, kneels, and Zod's like, "You're not the real president. No leader would kneel that quickly." And then the real president comes out and is like, "Oh, I'll kneel to you as long as you promise to, you know, spare the American people." And he's like, "Yeah, or spare the people of the world." And he's like, "I will, starting with you." So the president kneels, and he's just like, "Oh, God." And Zod just replies, "Zod." And that's great. That is a great moment. The fight scene between Superman and Zod was good. You know, it's nothing amazing. It's kind of dumb, but I like that Zod figures out that Superman's weakness is people, and he, like, starts trying to exploit that. Lex Luthor was good in this one. I like how Lex Luthor tries to play Zod. He tries to, once that fails, he tries to play Superman. I think the solution of Superman, because a big part of this is Superman loses his powers. And I think it's really dumb in the movie, but listening to Nick Scarpino talk about it at Kinda Funny, he explained that, like, the intention, at least in the Donner cut, is that it's like a child, where it's like, oh, you know, you're a teenager, you're 17 years old, your girlfriend's moving away for college across the country, so you decide to move away with her, and you go to your dad, and they'll tell you, like, that's a bad idea, you shouldn't do that. But they're not gonna, like, stop you, but they'll be there for you when you come back. And that's exactly what happens. You know, Superman gives up his powers to be with Lois. Immediately he realizes that's a bad idea. And then in the Donner cut, I guess he goes back to his dad. In the movie, he just finds in the theatrical one, he finds the green crystal again, and it's kind of dumb. I guess this entire thing, according to how Nick Scarpino explained it, it makes so much more sense in the Donner cut than it does in the movie I watched. Because in the movie I watched, I think him losing his powers is really dumb. And, like, I think Spider-Man 2 does this way better, by the way. Like, I honestly think Spider-Man 2 is a great look at, like, losing your powers and what that does to a hero. And then him coming back and, like, getting his powers back and everything. And one of the greatest scenes in a superhero movie is him stealing back the costume and swinging towards Doc Ock, reflected in the glasses. Such a good moment. And this movie doesn't really have anything like that. The power loss it's over real quick, you know. He gets in a bar fight with somebody, and then for some fucking reason he goes back and he gets revenge on this guy at the end. And that's dumb and it reminds me of, again, in another Superman movie I don't like, Man of Steel, where he fucking crucifies the guy's truck. It's just so petty, and like anybody who's paying attention would know that's Superman. But no, I do like at the end where he reverses the chamber, because he can't beat Zod. Zod, Ursa, and Man are too strong. You know, it's basically 3 Supermen, and he can't beat that. So instead of beating them, he has to outsmart them, and you know, him expecting Lex Luthor to betray him, because they team up for like 10 seconds, and what is a good moment. The fact again, listening to Kind of Funny, I recommend go checking out the Kind of Funny stuff. But I guess when Richard Donner was fired, you know, they did reshoots and whatnot, and they reshot like half the movie. And Gene Hackman refused to come back. Without Richard Donner, he wasn't gonna... So they used like a voice sound-alike and a body double, which is crazy. But whenever you do get like a Richard Donner scene, like, it's really good. And yeah, I really did like Lex in this movie. Yeah, he's still, you know, Lex Luthor, criminal genius, greatest villain of all time. But I found him a lot more likable in this one, like because Otis and Tessmaker only have like 1 scene each, he's a lot more approachable. I like how he plays off Zod. I like how he plays off Superman. Of like, you know, with you and me, Superman, it's easy. We get each other. These guys, though, they're so weird and random. Paraphrasing there, obviously. So that was all good. I enjoyed all that. But overall, yeah, the power loss stuff was dumb. The mind erasing kiss at the end is awful. I guess the Donner cut ends with them rewinding time again, which is a whole other thing that, again, maybe we'll talk more about next week. But overall, I definitely like the first one more. I think the first one, yeah, it's just as goofy, it's just as cartoony, but I was more willing to put up with it. Whereas with this one, and I don't think it was just because I was tired. Like, it might have been, like, that might have been, you know, maybe the Niagara Falls scene was so good. But I don't think it was. I don't think so. 2-3 weeks ago, we talked about Superman 1978. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about Superman 2. I had said, after we watched those 2 movies, I had said I had no intentions to watch Superman 3 or 4. I had never seen Superman 3, and I had seen Superman 4, but Superman 4 is like one of those famously bad movies. Superman 4 is a famously awful movie. So I was like, I don't need to watch those again. You know, I'll just watch Superman 1 and 2, the good ones. And that was my plan. Okay, I had no intention of watching 3 or 4. However, we're currently streaming on a Saturday. Normally, I do this show on a Friday. But the reason I didn't do this yesterday was because of 4th of July. Because of fireworks. Right? I live in one of those places where fireworks start like early June, go through the entire month. People go crazy on 4th of July, and then they continue throughout the rest of the month. Like, I've heard a few fireworks tonight already. But last night, if I had streamed, you would have just heard fireworks in the background all night long. It would have been awful. And it was just something, I had completely forgot to mention it last week. But yeah, I wasn't going to stream last week. The firework noise, it would have sucked. So, instead of streaming, I watched Superman 2, and then after doing Superman 3, I watched Superman 3, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, let's do Superman 4. So, I watched 4, and if I'm being honest, they both suck. Superman 3 from 1983 and Superman 4 from 1987 are both terrible features. So let's talk Superman 3 first. So I had never seen Superman 3 before. The only thing I knew about this movie was that it was all about Richard Pryor. The comedian Richard Pryor, big fan of Superman, and they basically made him the co-lead of the movie. He was basically the second main character. And that kind of sucked. That kind of ruined the movie, for lack of a better word. So I'd never heard good things about this, but so I'd never seen it. Like Superman 4 I had seen, but that's because of, people like the Nostalgia Critic, who, talked about he's not the only one, but he's the primary example, where it's like, oh yeah, this is a legendarily bad movie. Well, hey, me and my friends used to like the Nostalgia Critic. Let's watch some of the bad movies he used to watch. And so, yeah, we watched Superman 4 back in the day. This one, just completely avoided. And can I be honest? This movie sucks. I did not have a good time with this movie. I did not find Richard Pryor funny. I'm not saying Richard Pryor isn't funny. I think he can be funny. I just did not find him funny in this movie. I say that. I actually think this movie started off decent enough. The movie actually in the first 15, 20 minutes got a few laughs out of me. Not because what the movie did was funny. None of the jokes were funny, but the movie was so stupid and so ridiculous. I was actually having a decent time. One of the opening things that happens in the movie is there's this chemical fire that Superman goes to stop, but because they're all out of water, he flies to a nearby lake, freezes the lake over with his freeze breath, lifts it up, flies it over to the chemical fire, and then drops the frozen lake on top of the chemical fire, where it falls apart and turns into rain. Fucking ridiculous. But I'll be honest, I thought it was very funny. And there's a lot of shit like that early in the movie, where I was like, this is so dumb. This is so ridiculous. The opening scene is this Rube Goldberg machine of people getting hurt. This guy falls in a hole. Another guy walks on top of his head. And then, because he's a blind guy, his guide dog ran off, runs into the street, a car swerves to avoid it, runs into a fire hydrant, the guy starts drowning because the car starts flooding. Superman gets changed in a picture booth? A photo booth. But the photo, it's taking pictures as he's changing, so he pulls it out, takes it from the kid, rips off the bottom one, which is just him, gives it to the kid, and keeps the rest to keep his secret identity. I'll be honest, I found that very charming. I think that little opening scene, that little photo booth scene was actually really charming. There's some little moments early on in the movie that I think start off very strong. I mean, I'm not going to say it's amazing. Again, this is Superman 1983. I'm not going to say it's anything amazing or beautiful or anything like that. But I was having an okay time at how ridiculous everything was. But then after that, this movie is bad. But even worse than being bad, I think this movie's biggest sin is that it's boring. I was so bored in this movie. Superman goes to his high school reunion. And hey, look, there's Lana Lang. And Lana has a son. And her jerky ex-husband is there. And hey, they're gonna go bowling. And Superman's gonna use his super breath to help this kid get a strike. It's fucking boring. And then the Richard Pryor stuff. He's working for a company. And basically, when people get the paychecks at this company, the company's gone completely digital. Everything's on computers. And he realizes that a lot of employees make a half cent. So he makes the computer pay him. Everyone's half cent and quarter cent. And because it's everybody, he ends up getting $86,000, which gets him in trouble with the boss. But then the boss realizes oh, hey, wait, you're really good at computers, Richard Pryor. Why don't I use you to hack a weather machine satellite and destroy all the coffee beans in Colombia? Because guess what? I've bought every other coffee bean on the planet, So if I've bought them all up and you destroy all the coffee beans in Colombia, the one place I don't own them, then I can have all the coffee beans in the world. That's the live action, the second Gal Gadot movie. I hate that movie. That movie may be worse than the one I'm talking about right now. At a certain point in these Superman movies, I paused them because I was bored. When I paused Superman 3, I still had like an hour left. And I was like, oh shit. I still have an hour in this movie. Oh no. Oh no. But I kept going. Now, after that, basically, Richard Pryor for his bosses, who is his boss isn't Lex Luthor, but clearly it should be it's Lex Luthor in everything but name. Admittedly, it's nothing like Gene Hackman, but you know, it's another business guy. And basically, they create kryptonite. Now, if this was a comic, this would be red kryptonite. But because these movies don't give a shit about Superman lore, it's just green kryptonite. And for some reason, the green kryptonite, the one kind of funny thing, one of the funny, interesting things this movie does is that Richard Pryor gives Superman this green kryptonite that should have been red kryptonite, and it turns Superman evil. So Superman becomes evil. Okay, you've got an evil Superman. What's he gonna do? Is he gonna take over the world? Is he gonna kill the president? Is he gonna, start a war, use a nuclear bomb, kill Lex Luthor? The two things they have evil Superman do in this movie is he straightens out the Leaning Tower of Pisa and he blows out the Olympic torch. When given an evil Superman, the writers, the directors, that's what they thought of. Oh, evil Superman, he's gonna straighten out the Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's the most evil thing in the world. Fucking ridiculous. But I thought it was really funny. Again, I wasn't laughing with the movie. I was definitely laughing at the movie. But I thought that was so funny. That's the two evil things evil Superman does. He also, he saves this woman, he destroys an oil tank, because after the whole coffee bean thing, the villain's plan is to steal all the oil in the world. And meanwhile, Superman starts drinking whiskey, the evil businessman has, this blonde bombshell secretary, and Superman sleeps with her. He saves her from the Statue of Liberty, goes and destroys an oil tanker, and then as a reward she sleeps with him, which was just very weird. But again, I couldn't help myself from laughing at it because of how fucking ridiculous it was. And then the next day, after Superman's turned good again, she's really offended that Superman forgets about her because he forgets about everything he does while he's evil. So yeah, it's a fucking mess. Eventually, Christopher Reeves, even in this awful movie, acts his heart out. You get an actually decent moment where evil Superman fights Clark Kent, and the two go at it. Evil Superman tries to kill Clark Kent multiple times. Is it the real Clark Kent? Is it some have they split into two people? Is it a figment of his imagination? I have no idea. I don't really care. It was an okay scene. They're in a junkyard, and evil Superman tries to crush Clark Kent in a trash compactor, tries to drop a magnet on him. But in the end, Clark Kent literally murders Superman. He chokes him to death. It's a wild scene. And then after he's killed him, evil Superman just kind of disappears, just leaving Clark Kent behind. I guess at some point, according to Greg Miller and Nick Scarpino, at one point this movie had Brainiac in it. And the end of the movie, the villains have created this supercomputer, and the supercomputer is gonna kill Superman. And I actually really Richard Pryor is the villain tells him, whose name I don't remember, is oh, hey, Richard Pryor, you're gonna go down in history as the man who killed Superman. And he's like, no, I don't want that. Even though he's been the villain for the entire rest of the movie, at the last minute, you know, as Superman is dying, he's like, I don't want to be the man who killed Superman. So he, you know, stops the machine. The machine comes to life and turns a girl into a robot. And one of maybe the only cool effects in the movie, this woman gets like covered in like robot parts, and then Clark Kent immediately like kills her. Eventually, you know, he's able to destroy the supercomputer with Richard Pryor's help. The other two evil people get sent to jail, but because Richard Pryor helped out at the last minute, oh, it's okay. You know, he gets let free, and he ends up working at a coal mine for some weird fucking reason. Like, it ends on Richard Pryor's ending of the movie is like a really weird note. And then, of course, they have to end with one final scene. And what is it? It's Superman, now good again, goes back and leans the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So fucking stupid. This movie is not good. Superman 3 is not a good movie. But its biggest sin is that it was just boring. I was so bored. Sure, it had its ridiculous moments. Sure, did I get a few laughs out of it because it was so stupid? Yes. But it was just so fucking boring. Superman 4, on the other hand. So Superman 4, to make a long story short, you know, Christopher Reeves wanted to quit the movies. He didn't want to do a fourth one. But Cannon Group, the people who, you know, made the movie, an Israeli company, as I learned, basically they told him, hey, you can write the movie, or you can have a part in writing it if you come back. So he came back. He convinced Gene Hackman to come back as Lex Luthor, because, you know, they knew this was going to be the final one. And yeah, it's Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, is historically bad because it's all about Superman dealing with the nuclear arms race. That Superman's going to come in and end the nuclear arms race and take away all of our nuclear weapons. And this movie is bad. It is probably worse than the third one. But I wasn't nearly as bored with this one. I actually think I enjoyed Superman 4 more than I did Superman 3. Because Superman 3 was bad and boring. Superman 4 was bad and only a little boring. But it was kinda so bad that I was kinda having a good time. Not always, mind you. Some scenes were ridiculous. Like, there's a whole dinner party scene where, you know, Clark Kent is on a double date with Mariel Hemingway and Lois Lane. And it's just so fucking stupid. And I don't know why that's in the movie. That was ridiculous. But some of it is just so dumb that I couldn't help but have a good time. Like, yeah, is this a so bad it's good movie? I wouldn't go that far, but at least it wasn't boring. Because when I paused Superman 3, it was like, oh fuck, I've still got an hour left in this movie. When I paused this one, because I was a little bored, I only had 20 minutes left. Because that's the other thing. Most of these Superman movies are over 2 hours long. I want to say Superman 1978 was like 2 hours and 40 minutes. Some of these movies are very long. Superman 4, meanwhile, an hour 30. It went a lot quicker than all the other ones. It went so much quicker than Superman 3. And because of that, yeah, no, I probably had a better time with Superman 4. You know, this was at a time when the USSR still existed. Nuclear annihilation weighed over our head like a sword of Damocles at all times. And Superman's like, oh, well, I have to interfere. I don't want this planet to end up like Krypton, you know, destroying themselves. So he goes to the UN tells the people of the UN, I've made the decision to become a dictator and take away all your nuclear weapons. And what does he get? How does democracy die? To glorious applause. This isn't the evil Superman. This is just plain old Superman deciding to take away everyone's nuclear weapons, and everyone just agrees with him. Yeah, it's fucking dumb, but man, did I get a good laugh out of it. Meanwhile, Gene Hackman's back as Lex Luthor, and again, he's not taking this seriously, but man, do I prefer Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor over what's his name from this third one. He puts way more effort into this. When you first meet the Nuclear Man, because Lex Luthor's whole plot is that him and his nephew Lenny, who is played by John Cryer, so I used to watch 2.5 Men. I was a fan of 2.5 Men, specifically, back when John Cryer and Charlie Sheen were on it. I could give less of a shit after Ashton Kutcher came in. But I used to watch that show. I had completely forgot John Cryer was in this movie, especially because John Cryer later went on to play Lex Luthor. So him being Lenny here, I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. I like when they do shit like that. And I know he's ducky and pretty and pink. Yes, I know that. But he'll always be the Alan from 2.5 Men. And yeah, he played Lex Luthor. So that was cool. Because I have not watched the Arrowverse. But I remember him being in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Because that's like one of the only episodes of the Arrowverse I've seen. Him and the guy who was in Smallville are in that. Lex Luthor has a plan. He's going to create a clone of Superman. Now, if this was inspired by the comics, they would have made Bizarro Superman. Nope. Instead, they make Nuclear Man. A man powered by the radiation of the sun. It's so much so that the moment he walks inside of a building, he loses all power and shuts off. But, okay, so there's a really good moment where when Nuclear Man's there, Lex Luthor is like manipulating him to fight Superman. And Superman, they pulled a trick again from the first movie where Lex sends a call that only like dogs and Superman can hear. And so Superman goes over to investigate it after the awful dinner date scene. And Lex Luthor's like, hey Superman, it's good to see you again. I know it's been a while, but it's nice to talk to someone on my level. Like Nuclear Man over here, real thick in the head. But you get me, Superman. I actually like that moment. I think Christopher Reeves and Gene Hackman had a really good rapport. They worked off each other really well. Because even if Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor is not comic accurate at all, I still like Gene Hackman. I still think, that's the thing. Throughout all of these movies, the best parts are Christopher Reeves as Superman, Margaret Kidder as Lois Lane, and Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. Even if they're not, super comic accurate or anything, I do really like them. So I actually really like this confrontation between the two of them. I think it worked well enough. It's Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. They're not giving it all their acting chops, but I don't give a shit. What's there is fine for Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. But Superman and Nuclear Man fight. They go around the world. Nuclear Man destroys something. Superman fixes it. Nuclear Man destroys the Great Wall of China, and then Superman comes in it and uses his rewinding time powers. But this time they're lasers that shoot out of his eyes to fix the Great Wall of China. It's so fucking stupid. Oh god, they redo the memory erasing kiss. Earlier on in the movie, right, Superman wants to get rid of all the nuclear weapons, but he can't decide should he interfere or not. So he reveals his identity to Lois Lane. They redo all the flying scenes from the second movie, or maybe it's the first movie. They redo all the flying scenes, and then after that, he asks Superman asks Lois, should I interfere? And she says, like, oh, whatever decision you'll make, it's the right one. I trust you. And then he does the memory erasing kiss again. It's so fucking stupid. Oh my gosh. But so in the fight with Nuclear Man, while saving the Statue of Liberty, Clark gets like scratched, and it just makes him like sick, and he's like dying of radiation poisoning. And you actually get another good, again, Margaret Kidder is good in this movie, and she comes in and like is like, oh Clark, you're sick, no wonder you haven't shown up for work this week. And they have like this really good conversation. Again, it's Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. It's better than it should have been, and it's not that great, but like, it's Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So after that, Superman like almost dies of radiation poisoning, but he's able to reuse the magic crystal from the first movie for the third time, because somehow he gets it back from his space. It makes no fucking sense, whatever. He gets his powers back, he goes and fights Nuclear Man. I actually like that he like outsmarted Nuclear Man by like trapping him in an elevator, and then he puts it on the moon, because like, they show that he can't like beat Nuclear Man with raw strength. He's too strong. Instead, he has to outsmart him. I like a Superman that can outsmart a villain. That's why I think Mixius can be interesting. Because Superman isn't stronger than him, he has to outsmart him. And Superman can do that. So I like that. Of course, does it immediately backfire? Yeah, of course it does. And Nuclear Man gets out, they have a fight on the moon, they go back to Earth, he kidnaps Meredith Hemingway, and then after that, they go off into space again. Superman beats Nuclear Man, and then drops him in a nuclear reactor. And I guess the day is solved. Superman goes back to the UN, and he gives this speech. And now, I remember probably the Nostalgia Critic making fun of this speech, because Superman says something along the lines of like, if the people of Earth really want it hard enough, they will have peace. And I want to say like Doug Walker made fun of that and was like, oh, I guess people in like Africa who are, starving to death and are dealing with warlords, I guess they just don't want peace enough. People in North Korea, I guess they don't want peace enough. Isn't that right, Superman? Like, I remember the speech being clowned on. Watching it again for the first time in like 10, 15 years, I actually kind of like this ending speech. Specifically, the final lines in the speech are Superman saying like, I wish you could see the world the way I see it. We're all just one people on one little blue rock. I wish you could see the world the way I do. And you know what? I think that's kind of beautiful. Sure, can we clown on that one line? Sure. But at the end of the day, no, I kind of like that ending speech. I think that's a good note to end the movie on. And then Superman goes flying away into the, the sunset. And that's Superman 4. And yeah, it's a bad movie. It's a dumb movie. But I liked it more than 3. Because it's a half hour shorter than 3. And I found it less boring. It was so bad that I had an okay time. Would I watch it again? No, of course not. I'd never watch either of these movies again. But I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it is. If I had to rate because I'm inspired by Kinda Funny, if I had to rate all these movies like they do, it'd be Superman 1978, 1. Superman 2, right below that, then probably Superman 4. I'd probably put Superman 4 third, and then Superman 3. It comes down to what's worse, being a bad movie or being a boring movie. And I think being a boring movie is worse, and that's why I put Superman 3 last. I have never seen Superman Returns, so maybe in a few weeks when Kinda Funny does that, I'll watch that. Because yeah, I've never seen that one. And then I also am kind of thinking about rewatching Man of Steel. Because while Kinda Funny is not doing that, because, they already did that, I haven't seen Man of Steel since, I think the last time I saw it was right before Batman v Superman came out, which was like 2016. I haven't seen that movie in like 9 years. And while I don't remember liking Batman v Superman, or no, I didn't like Man of Steel, who knows? Maybe my opinions on it will be different this time. Either way, next week is the James Gunn Superman, and I am very excited. I hope it's good. If it's not, it's gonna break my fucking heart. I hope it's good. Like, genuinely good. Like, I liked the 1978 Superman, but when I say I liked it, there's a lot of asterisks. I hope I go into the James Gunn Superman, and I love it. No asterisks attached. Link in the description. Hey, you want to do my like and subscribe plug while you're at it? Oh no, now I have to include this in the YouTube highlights because they said like and subscribe.